Hello, Jacksonites, and today we'll be reviewing a very, very, very special movie. One that I've actually been thinking about reviewing for a couple of years, actually, but just for some reason never got around to doing it until now. Today I'll be reviewing a very special film that I hold to myself. Um, I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase. Today I'm reviewing 2003's. Can't really see the title, but Freddy versus Jason. Oh my God, Freddy versus Jason. So, to jump right into it, my history with Freddy versus Jason, I knew of the hype. And I knew who Freddy and Jason were when this movie was coming out. I was aware of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and I was aware of the Friday the 13th series. I hadn't seen any of either. I'd seen a couple of clips here and there. But other than that, um, I hadn't seen any installments of either franchises, but I remember the hype, and I remember a lot of people that I knew at the time were just going ape shit over this movie, and everyone was saying, "Oh my God, Freddy versus Jason this, Freddy versus Jason that." So it's kind of a big deal at the time, and I never saw it. I never saw it. Uh, I would have loved to see this movie in theaters, but I was 6 years old when this movie first came out, so neither of my parents would have given a shit to take me to go see it, so I didn't get to see it. I didn't see this movie till I was about 13 years old. I remember my stepdad had rented it, and I snuck it out of his room when he and my mom were away, and I watched it then. I remember enjoying it, but not really being super into it at the time. I just wasn't in the right state of mind. I didn't see this movie in full in the right state of mind until I was in high school. I think I was a junior. No, I was a sophomore. I remember that specifically. I was a sophomore. I got this movie for Christmas off of Amazon. And I remember this disc in particular took a lot longer than usual because I was buying this from the UK off Amazon. So I ordered it in December, and it didn't show up until mid-January. So I was kind of pissed about that, but I popped it in because I remember seeing some reviews and I saw some clips. At that time, I was going through a really big slasher movie phase where I was obsessed with Nightmare on Elm Street and I was obsessed with Friday the 13th. There was this one video where on that I saw on YouTube where someone compiled all the death scenes from the Nightmare on Elm Street, or not Nightmare, Friday the 13th series into one video. It was like a half hour long of every single kill from the Friday the 13th series. I remember being really entertained by that. Hang on. Oh, it's Eric Harrison. Ooh. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, and then there was a couple of videos that I would watch on YouTube that compiled all of Freddy Krueger's funniest lines over the series. And I watched those 3 videos like religiously for a couple of months. And some of those included were, of course, Freddy versus Jason kills. And Freddy versus Jason always stuck out to me because I always just thought, this looks like a damn good movie. It looks like it has the biggest budget. It looks like it has the best quality. And it looks like it has the best acting, just the best everything. So I want to see Freddy versus Jason. So I bought it and I sat down and I watched it. I was blown away. I loved this movie. And I still love this movie. I'm going to go this far. I'm going to be controversial about this, but I really don't care. I think this is both the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie, the best Friday the 13th movie, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And I'm going to go this far too. Well, I'll say this first. At the moment, it's the best crossover movie. Yeah, we have King Kong versus Godzilla, but I don't think that's a good movie at all. Hopefully, Godzilla versus Kong will knock this movie off its throne. And I'm going to go as far to say it's one of the greatest movies ever made, period. Yeah, I said it. And that's the last thing I want to say for my personal history of Freddy versus Jason. Ironically, I just got done watching the movie. The wife watched it a little bit with me too. I hadn't watched Freddy versus Jason since the day that I was reunited with my brother. I'm not going to go into the story. I'll just say I did not see my brother for 10 years of my life. And the day that he and I were reunited, we watched Freddy versus Jason together because I found out he's a Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I'm a Friday the 13th fan. We popped on Freddy versus Jason and we had a fucking blast watching it together. So that's another reason why I hold Freddy vs. Jason so special to me. It's the movie that brought me and my brother together again after 10 years of being apart. So that's why I hold this movie in such high regard. I think this movie is truly an unsung masterpiece. So with that being said, before I get into the plot, I want to say a couple of things. First off, it's a miracle that this movie was made at all to begin with. For those who don't know, from 1980 to 1989, Paramount were the ones who owned the rights to the Friday the 13th series. And after the financial failure of Friday the 13th Part 8, Sean S. Cunningham, the creator of the Friday the 13th series, sold the rights to Friday the 13th to New Line Cinema. New Line Cinema, of course, at the time, were the owners of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Now, as I said in my ranking the Friday the 13th series video, there was a first attempt made in 1987 to try to make a Jason versus Freddy movie. However, Paramount and New Line Cinema could not agree on a story, and that movie ended up becoming Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. And when New Line Cinema finally acquired the rights to the Friday the 13th series with Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, of course, at the very end of the movie, there's that quick scene where Freddy's hand bursts from the ground and grabs Jason's mask and pulls it underground. That got a lot of people talking, and people have been wanting to see an actual movie of Freddy versus Jason for years. It took 10 years, 1993 to 2003. There was numerous different scripts written. At one point, it would have been explained that Freddy actually would have been Jason's father, which after 12 movies, it's never explained who Jason's father is. Whatever. But admittedly, I don't think that script would have worked because A, it would have conflicted with some of the lore of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And I just don't think a lot of fans would have bought Freddy as Jason's father. So I think it was a good idea that script was thrown out. But eventually, New Line Cinema hired Ronnie Yu, who has directed some other slasher movies that I know of. Oh, he directed Bride of Chucky. So I actually have not seen Bride of Chucky, at least in full. Let's see. He also did nothing really all that significant. So yeah, they hired Ronnie Yu, and of course they hired back what's his name? Hang on, there's a novelization. Oh, never mind. Of course, they hired back Robert Englund for the final time to play Freddy Krueger. They threw the script together, didn't throw it together, but they made this movie and they released it. It had a $30 million budget, the highest budget of all of the Nightmare on Elm Street series and Friday the 13th series combined. Not combined, but highest budget of any of those movies. And it made $114 million. And yet this movie didn't make a sequel, but this movie made fucking bank. Unfortunately, it received mostly negative reviews from critics, which doesn't surprise me because it just seems like unless it's made by a really, really, really outstanding director, horror movies just get shit on. However, since then, this movie has garnered a massive, massive cult following. Oh, Unigamer is here. Hello. Bride of Chucky looks like an okay movie, but I've only seen it on TV, so I can't really give my thoughts on it. Let's see. Hang on. I forgot to write down my pros and cons. Fuck. Let me do that real quick. Hang on, guys. I'm almost done. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. I have two viewers. Who's the second one? Say hello. So with all that said, I also do want to say that, okay, Hollywood's kind of a dumbass because this movie is proof that crossover films are successful. Again, 104 almost made $115 million on a $30 million budget. That makes bank. That's a big return investment, regardless of the negative opinions. Eventually, movies like this will develop a cult following. This is why I believe in the next few years, the 2019 Hellboy movie will be kind of rediscovered as a classic. I'm not just saying that because I like that movie. Well, partially, but Hollywood's a dumbass because, again, this movie is proof that movies like this make money. And I know I'm not the first person to say this, but why the fuck don't studios get their heads out of their asses and come together to make movies like this? People have been asking for years. Let's see a Jason versus Michael movie, a Freddy versus Michael movie, Jason versus Leatherface, Michael versus Leatherface, Chucky versus Leprechaun, The Evil Dead versus the Cenobites. I'm just throwing out examples at this point. Hell no. But yeah, I never understood why Hollywood doesn't get their heads out of their asses and just realize, yeah, these movies make money. So why can't we just put aside our differences and give the fans what they want? James Rolfe put it best in his Friday the 13th reviews. The only reason that these movies don't get made, well, that's part of it. The studios want their horror movie killer to come out on top. That I can kind of understand. But I have a solution to that. Well, I have two solutions to that. But studios also realize that, yeah, if we make this movie, we're going to have to split the profits 50-50. Well, to quote James, well, you know what? These 50-50 is more than what these movies are already making now, which is nothing. Chucky versus Leprechaun. The only way that movie will get made is if A, they clear up the legal bullshit with the Leprechaun series, and B, is if a fan film is made, which I actually think a fan movie might be a better film than anything a studio could shit out. By the way, I just want to say I would like to see Chucky win that fight. But yeah, I don't understand why Hollywood is so stupid. And to talk about the studio conversation, yes, the studios can't make up their minds on who they want to win. For example, I'm sure there's a big studio debate on who's going to win with King Kong versus Godzilla. I have heard from somebody that Godzilla is guaranteed to win because Toho will legally not allow America to kill off their own monster or let him lose. Here's my solution. This may sound kind of petty or kind of like a fan, just like being a fanboy moment. So if it does, I don't care, but this is just what I think. I think the studio should put out a massive, massive poll. Say, hey, we want to make a Freddy, or let's make an example. We want to make a Jason versus Leatherface movie. Who would you like to see win? They let the fans decide. So say the vast majority say, hey, let's go with, hey, I think Jason would win. Or, hey, I think Leatherface should win. They should go with that and just make that the winner. At that same time, however, to somewhat cater to the minority, you make the fight very, very fair. Like, say they made a Jason versus Michael Myers, Jason versus Michael Myers movie, even though those two were pretty evenly matched, Jason would win. You have Michael put up an extremely good fight. They kind of do this with Freddy versus Jason, so I will give this movie a lot of props in that. During the entire fight, they keep the outcome vague. Each one puts up an extremely good fight. So I do like that about the fight in this movie, which is kind of a spoiler. But so you have the one who's going to lose still put up a really good fight, but you go to the fans and you say, who do you think would win? And just go with the minority. Or the minority. No, go with the majority. But no, studios just say, well, my character is the best. Or no, my character is the best. Or no, my character is the best. Again, it's a miracle that Freddy vs. Jason even exists in the first place. It was only because New Line Cinema owns both, or at the time owned both Freddy and Jason. So with all that being said, 19 minutes into the review, let's jump into the plot. This Wikipedia plot is terrible, but whatever. The plot is that Freddy Krueger is powerless in hell because of the residents of Springwood having forgotten about him. So he disguises himself as Pamela Voorhees, of course, Jason's mom, and Freddy manipulates Jason into coming back to life and going to Springwood and to kill teenagers in order to spread fear to regain his strength. Laurie Campbell, played by Let's see. Monica Keena, or no. Yeah, Monica Keena. Oops. Lives with her widowed father and her friends Kia and Gib, which is a fucking weird name. Gib are sleeping over to keep her company. They are later joined by Trey, Gibb's boyfriend. God, Gib, that's such a weird fucking name. And his friend Blake, whom Kia tries to get Lori to hook up with, much to Lori's disgust, as she's still hung up on her first boyfriend, Will. That night, Jason kills Trey after he gets done fucking Gib. Totally deserved it, though, because he was a fucking douchebag. And the police suspect Freddy. After a nightmare, Blake awakens to find his father dead before Jason kills him by seemingly slicing him clean in half. The police call it a murder-suicide the following day, and as they are hoping to contain Freddy, as they don't want any more Freddy Krueger stuff to start spreading around and causing fear. Lori's ex-boyfriend Will Rollins and his friend Mark Davis are patients at the Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and take Hypnosil, also from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, to suppress their dreams because of their previous contact with Freddy Krueger. A news report prompts them to escape and return to Springwood in order to tell Lori and her friends about Freddy. That night, Lori and her friends attend a rave in a cornfield. Freddy tries to kill Gib in a nightmare when she passes out because she's completely fucking shit-faced. However, Jason kills her and the dude that's trying to molest her while she's asleep by impaling her with a fucking giant-ass pipe, and also goes on a rampage throughout the party, killing several other attendees. And this makes Freddy realize that Jason would just continue to kill, and kill, which denies Freddy of his victims. Linderman and Freeberg escape the rave with Will, Lori, and Kia. Lori and Will go to Mark's house and find Freddy killing him. Deputy Stubbs approaches Lori and her friends, who realize Freddy's plan, and learning about Hypnosil, they go to Weston Hills and they try to steal it. However, when this happens, Freddy ends up possessing one of the kids there named Freeberg. And disposes of all the medicine, dumping it down the drain. After electrocuting Stubbs, Jason is tranquilized by the possessed Freeberg and kills him, slicing him clean the fuck in half before Jason ends up falling asleep. The teens devise a plan to pull Freddy from the dream world. Ow. Sorry, that was the wife. So they plan to pull Freddy from the dream world into reality and force him to fight Jason, bringing the unconscious Jason back to the now abandoned Camp Crystal Lake. Freddy fights Jason in the real world, which is in the dream world, which is fucking awesome, where his dream powers show him that Jason is afraid of water because of his death by drowning. He uses water to make Jason powerless, but Lori goes to sleep and tries to save Jason. Freddy attacks her and reveals himself as her mother's killer. Kind of a duh moment there, but whatever. Jason awakens at Camp Crystal Lake and chases the teens into a cabin. Linderman is killed and the cabin catches fire. Lori is awakened and pulls Freddy into the real world finally, where he is confronted by Jason. As Jason and Freddy fight, the remaining teens escape the cabin. Kia distracts Freddy until Jason ends up killing her. And on a dock, after a long, nasty-ass brutal fight, Jason tears Freddy's clawed arm off after Freddy stabs out Jason's eyes. Lori and Will pour gasoline on the dock and set it on fire. And this makes propane tanks explode, throwing Freddy and Jason into the lake. Freddy climbs out and tries to kill Lori and Will. However, he is impaled by Jason on his own clawed arm. And this allows Lori to decapitate Freddy as Jason falls lifeless into the lake. And Lori and Will leave Camp Crystal Lake, and the next morning, seemingly, Jason emerges from the water holding his machete and Freddy's severed head. This is one of few scenes in the movie that I don't like. The movie ends with Freddy winking at the audience and laughing off screen. Thus ending the movie, and we never got a sequel, which is a goddamn shame. So how about this plot? Honestly, I couldn't think of to do it any other way. I think this plot is perfect. It intertwines the Nightmare on Elm Street series and the Friday the 13th series so perfectly that I really do believe that the Nightmare on Elm Street series and the Friday the 13th series do take place in the same universe. So I think that is fucking awesome. And this plot is awesome. And this movie is awesome. Hang on, I'm thirsty. That's all I have to say. I think this plot is awesome. They couldn't have done it any other way. So, with that being said, let me go into the pros and cons of Freddy versus Jason. Pro number one is that the characters in the film are overall, they're okay. Some of the acting is pretty bad, but the characters overall, they're very serviceable, and that's all that they really need to be. If you watch a movie called Freddy versus Jason, you're not really going into this looking for Oscar-worthy acting or Oscar-worthy performances. And if you do, you're an idiot. All I really care about is characters that are likable and that you want to see escape, but you also want to see these people interact with Freddy and Jason, potentially fight him, and get these two to fight. And these characters do exactly that. None of them are really super annoying. None of them are really terribly written. Some of the acting here is kind of shaky, especially from Laurie, but I'll talk about that later. But overall, the characters are fine. The true stars of this movie is, of course, Freddy and Jason. Duh, the movie's called Freddy vs. Jason. So the characters are good. Pro number two is that the pacing for the film is overall, it's perfect. This movie is 98 minutes long, and while I would have hoped that it would have been a little longer, I'm fine with it being only 98 minutes long, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So I think this movie is paced perfectly. No scene drags. No scene feels unnecessary. Everything feels important to the plot. Everything feels important to intertwining the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street series together. Everything here is pitch fucking perfect. I love the pacing here. Yeah, 1 second, I had a typo. Pro number three is the music in this movie is fucking awesome. The movie begins with a hybrid of the Nightmare on Elm Street theme and the Friday the 13th theme. Dun, 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 dun. Love it. As soon as I hear that, I'm instantly drawn into this movie. Love it. And the rest of the music is pretty fucking awesome. One compliment I will give to Ronnie Yu for Bride of Chucky is that he knows how to make a good soundtrack. I kind of feel like Ronnie Yu, at least music mentality wise, is kind of like an Asian Rob Zombie. Hell, he uses Rob Zombie music in Bride of Chucky. So, in that aspect, I think he's really good. Hell, the opening rock song that they use for the opening of this movie, when you see the title card of Freddy versus Jason, you just see a giant tidal wave of blood go against the wall, and there's just this rock song plays right as the words Freddy versus Jason pops up, and that is fucking awesome. Instantly gets me into this movie, just makes me say, hell fucking yes, we are watching a spectacle here, and I love it. And the rest of the music is very, very good. It's a good hybrid of Friday the 13th music and Nightmare on Elm Street music, which is awesome. Any crossover film, if each individual character has their own unique theme, you should use both at the same time while also separately. When one character is doing some epic shit against the other, you should have that theme. And when another character is doing some epic shit against another character, you should have that theme. Like, say, they're Godzilla versus Gamera. You should include both the Godzilla theme and the Heisei Gamera theme, not the Showa theme. But you should include both. And you should also have a hybridized version of both themes. A good one, that is. So the music in this movie is fucking awesome. Pro number 4 is that this movie is very gory. You cannot do Freddy versus Jason and have it be semi-tame, and you certainly cannot allow the MPAA to butcher this movie. Thank fucking God the MPAA fucked off with this movie, because if this movie was made in the 80s and Paramount put this movie out, this movie would be a whole hell of a lot worse, because the MPAA would have censored the ever-living shit out of this movie. It would have been like 10 minutes shorter if the MPAA got their hands on this movie, if this was under Paramount. That is one thing I will give all the New Line Cinema Friday the 13th movies some credit, is that all of their kills are pretty damn fucking gory. And this movie is no exception. There's lots of blood spraying everywhere. There's lots of blood squirting and spurting out all over the place. People get sliced in half. People get their eyes sliced out. They get arms torn off. They get chests slashed open. It's a fucking bloodbath. And the final fight between Freddy and Jason, well, I'll talk about that when I talk about the fight, but I'll just say it's very gory. So this movie is gleefully gory, and I love it. And this leads into pro number 5, is that the kills in this movie are pretty fucking awesome. One of my all-time favorite kills in any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies or Friday the 13th movies combined is Trey's kill. He rolls over and grabs a beer and he cracks it open. He takes a sip, then he sees Jason there. He turns over and Jason stabs the fucking crap out of this dude through his back, through the bed. I think he stabs him like 15 times. But then he stabs his machete into the floor, grabs both ends of the bed, and breaks this motherfucker in half. And the sound that is made, it's like a very sick cracking sound. And it is fucking awesome. One of my all-time favorite kills of any slasher movie, period. Lots of the other kills are pretty awesome too. Freeberg's kill is pretty awesome too. He gets sliced clean in half, like horizontally wise. Let's see. The cop gets electrocuted to death and gets his face smashed into a power grid. Let's see. What are some other kills? Freddy's like one of 2 kills that he has in this movie. When he kills Mark, that's pretty good. He gets the words Freddy's back burned into his back. And he also gets his face slashed up. Hang on. Let's see. Some other kill. I just watched this movie. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, the kill in this movie that made me laugh the most is Jason comes out of the cornfield, and there's this guy saying, says to him, "This is a rave, not a Halloween party. Why don't you find yourself a pig to fuck? Yeah, invite only corn poke and you word invite." Jason grabs the dude's head and like really quickly rips it sideways, not sideways, but like breaks his neck, and his head is like looking a full 180 degrees. And he's standing there like for a moment, like a Maxenic gag, and Jason just goes, he falls backwards. Every time I see that, it cracks me the fuck up. Oh, Justin Tang is here. No, I did not see Brightburn. I want to see Brightburn. It looks like an interesting movie. But yeah. So the kills in this movie are fucking awesome. They're gleefully gory. They're really funny. Not really funny. Some of them are funny. They have like a little tinge of humor. But they're really gory. They're really violent. They're kind of clever. They're just awesome. The kills are fucking awesome in this movie. So yeah, that's good. And again, thank fucking God the MPAA fucked off for this movie. Let's see. Pro number 6 is Jason Voorhees himself. Now, many will say that their favorite performance of Jason is Kane Hodder. For obvious reasons, because Kane Hodder does kick ass as Jason, especially in parts 7 and 10. Ironically, the first and last of his 4 Jason movies. But Kane Hodder does great, and a lot of people were really hoping Kane Hodder would return for this movie. Many people were disappointed because he did not. Jason is played by Ken Kirsinger in this movie, or Kirsinger, or however you pronounce his name, who himself also was a stunt double, and actually played a small part in Friday the 13th Part 8, where Jason goes into a diner and Ken Kirsinger plays a cook, and he goes up to Jason to try to, shove him out and tell him to get the fuck out, but he ends up getting thrown against a window. Now, Kane Hodder is 6'3". Ken Kirsinger is 6'5". And especially compared to how tall is he? Robert Englund's 5'9" height. Jason Voorhees is a towering behemoth in this movie. Many people were very disappointed with Ken Kirsinger's performance in this movie. I'm not one of them. Ken Kirsinger is my favorite Jason Voorhees. I'm just going to say it right now. I like the slow. A lot of people complained that he was too slow. He moved too much like a Frankenstein monster. And he wasn't fast enough for Freddy. I say that's a good thing. Kind of like how Justin says Freddy is the brains and Jason is the brawn. I like Jason to be as large as he is. I like how slow he is because it shows that he signifies strength, whereas Freddy obviously symbolizes, or did I say signifies? Jason embodies strength, whereas Freddy embodies speed. I'll talk about this when I talk about the fights. But I like Jason being slow and being... Yeah, I like him being slow because he's also strong. Very strong. And there are... I think a lot of people really overblow how slow Ken Kirsinger is as Jason. There are moments where Jason moves pretty quickly. I just feel like there's like a method to his madness when it comes to moving around. He has this really slow, heavy Frankenstein walk, and I love it. I mean, he has extremely... I agree. I agree. He has extremely heavy footsteps because he's wearing big, heavy boots, and he's like 6'5". He weighs almost 300 pounds. I like Ken Kirsinger as Jason. I think it's my favorite Jason performance. I think it's a really solid role. And all the hate for Ken Kirsinger as Jason in this movie, I just don't get it. I love this version of Jason. And aside from that, Jason is a total badass in this movie. Like I said, a lot of his kills, because Jason does like 95% of the killing in this movie, all of his kills are pretty damn awesome. The only one that's kind of lame is Linderman's death. He gets like smacked aside by Jason, and he like lands into a spike, and that he bleeds out. It's kind of a lame kill. But other than that, Jason's kills are fucking brutal. Another kill that's pretty brutal is Kia's death. Jason slices her, but more just like fucking, like knocks her out of the park with his machete, and she goes flying and slams against a tree. Probably broken like 30 bones in her body. And also has a giant slash up her chest. Kia gets fucked up. Like a lot of people get fucked up. And now, pro number, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 is Freddy himself. I say this is Robert Englund's best performance as Freddy Krueger. He has a lot of screen time. He has the best looking makeup, in my opinion. The best looking glove. The best balance of seriousness as well as humor. It's a slightly better version of Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy, but still, I think this is the best balance of Freddy being serious and also being funny. One of my favorite lines from Freddy in this movie is when during the second fight in the real world, Jason like punches Freddy and he just goes flying like 100 feet away and lands on some gas tanks. Or not gas tanks, they're like these big giant air cylinders. One of them goes flying. So then he gets up this giant rack of these air cylinders, and then he just says, "Man, the torpedoes." Cracks me up every time. So, and also Robert Englund, I think, is truly having the time of his life playing Freddy in this movie. And for this being the last time that Robert Englund played Freddy in a movie, not counting his appearance in the Goldbergs, for the last time him playing Freddy Krueger in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I think he truly goes out with a bang with his best performance. This is my favorite version of Freddy. Let's see. Pro number 8 is the I already talked about the special effects in this movie, I think, are pretty fucking solid. Freddy's makeup looks really good. Ken Kirzinger dressed up as Jason. He looks really, really solid. He looks like a zombie. The gore effects are fantastic. There's no flaws in the gore. The practical gore effects, I'm going to state that right now. The practical special effects in this movie are really, really solid. There's lots of blood. There's lots of blood effects. There's lots of course, for the kills to be awesome, the effects got to be great too. When Freeberg gets cut in half, you actually see a mannequin get sliced the fucking half, and when he does, blood sprays all over the fucking place. And overall, the special effects in this movie are really, really, really fucking solid. There's no flaws in the practical effects whatsoever, at least not that I noticed. They're all really damn solid. This movie's $30 million budget was put to use very, very, very well. Some of the best effects for any slasher movie I've ever seen. Potentially the best effects. And the last thing I want to say, let's see, pro number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 is the fights in this movie. The actual fights between Freddy and Jason. There's really only 2. There's one in the dream world and one in the real world. However, they're both long and they're fucking awesome. They do establish each character's strengths. Freddy is more powerful in the dream world. Jason is more powerful in reality. Isaiah McKinney. I don't know who that is. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the fight scenes in this movie are fucking awesome. They're fairly long. I'd say the fight in the dream world is about 10 minutes long, and the final one in real world is like 25 minutes long because there's many stages to it. Starts in the cabin, then it goes outside to the shore, then it goes into like a mill, then it ends on a dock. There's many stages to the fight, and it's entertaining as fuck. And again, I like how they balance their skills. In the real world, Jason is much stronger, obviously. I mean, hell, this kind of cracks me up now that I see it. Jason tosses Freddy around like a fucking rag doll. One of my favorite moments of the final fight is when it starts in the cabin. Jason picks up Freddy, smashes him through a window, and then continues to smash him through each window of the cabin, and then finally drags him outside and tosses him like 200 feet away and lands through another cabin, breaking through the roof. Jason is a fucking powerhouse in this movie. When Freddy starts slashing him up, he just takes all the damage like a tank. Now, I will admit there's one minor flaw that I have with Ken Kirsinger's performance is that for some of the fights, Jason will just kind of stand there and take the abuse from Freddy. Like he'll swing his machete and then he'll obviously miss, and he'll swing it again, then he'll miss. Freddy will kick or slash at him, then he just kind of stands there. And then he'll grab a hold of Freddy and try to slice him again, and then he'll get blocked, or Freddy will dodge, and then Freddy will put in a couple more hits. But then finally Jason will learn and get the upper hand, kind of grab a hold of him and just toss him or subdue him. Like one of my favorite moments before the Freddy lands on the gas tanks. Chucky versus Freddy. No, I don't think Chucky versus Freddy would really work. If it was an episode of a TV show, I think that would work. But to stretch that out into a full feature movie, I don't think that would work nearly as well. But then Jason just fucking like slams his fist into Freddy and sends him flying like 100 feet, which that had to hurt. And in the dream world, it's more geared towards Freddy because obviously, that's Freddy's realm. But still, Jason keeps on coming because he's just a fucking tank. Cuts off both of Freddy's arms. He just grows them right back. He'll be stabbed by his own machete, but then he'll just tear it out and try to slit Freddy's throat. He'll be knocked all over the place, and he'll have a 10-ton tanker dropped on him. He'll just punch Freddy in the face and toss him around. The fights are very balanced. I do like that about this movie as well. Like I said, this is kind of how I think they should do King Kong versus Godzilla. Jason standing in for Godzilla, of course. He's kind of slow, but he's really large and he's really powerful. Whereas King Kong obviously stands in for Freddy. He's smaller and technically he's weaker, but he's also faster and more agile. So that balances out their skills. Kind of like with also in the original Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, when Frankenstein and... No, fuck off, Mr. Taco. In Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, they clearly established the monster is much stronger. However, the Wolfman is much more agile. So he can land a lot more hits, but the Frankenstein monster is the total tank, and he just keeps on coming. They're like, this is exactly the same way with Freddy and Jason. Freddy lands a lot of damage on Jason, but I think overall Jason lands the more grievous injuries. Freddy slashes at him a whole bunch with his claw, and eventually when he gets his hand on Jason's machete, he slices him up with that a whole bunch. He stabs out Jason's eyes, stabs him in the chest, like in his heart, and also slices off the fingers off of one of Jason's hands. However, Jason probably breaks his ribs with that punch that sent him flying. Probably sliced the shit out of his face when he was being... Oh, yeah, Frankenstein versus Baragon. Yeah, exactly. Sliced the shit out of Freddy's face through all that glass that he tore through. Probably had a concussion when he went through that cabin roof. I guess we would if me and Jackie Boy were ever to fight in a video, but I don't know. Let's see. Jason also slices the living shit out of Freddy's chest, slices his arm up, impales him in the stomach with his own stumped fist, and also rips off one of Jason or of Freddy's arms and impales Freddy completely through his chest with his own clawed glove. Jason fucks Freddy the fuck up. So actually, I'm going to get rid of one of my cons because I just realized that. I do think that Jason gets his ass kicked a little bit too much in this movie. But now that I just explained it to myself, I just realized, yeah, Jason inflicts the more grievous injuries. So I'm going to get rid of that. So the fight scenes in this movie are fucking awesome. They couldn't have done it any better. They couldn't have done a better job. Overall, the fights in this movie are very fucking satisfying. And I'm so glad that they did not just save the big climactic fight to the very end, which I really hope that Godzilla vs. Kong does not do that. They just save the big fight for the end. I hope they have a couple fights throughout the movie. So with all these good things I have to say about this movie, do I have any cons? I do. Though most of them are nitpicks, but I do want to mention them. I have 4 cons. Con number 1 is the acting from some of the characters. I'm not going to talk about this too much. Some of the acting from Laurie feels kind of forced, and it feels very unnatural. I feel like I've never seen her in any other movie except for this, so I feel like maybe this is just like a one-time acting gig for her. But still, with that being said, she really wasn't all that good in this movie. There's moments where she's good, but there's also other moments where it's very obvious. Like, she looks uncomfortable to be in this movie. She just doesn't look comfortable acting in this film. Also, the actress who played Gib was pretty fucking terrible too. Like Laurie has her moments, but Gib is just overall terrible. But the rest of the acting, it's serviceable. It's not Oscar worthy, but it's not like Manos the Hands of Fate bad. Con number 2 is Freddy has too few kills in this movie. He only has 2. Mark and Laurie's mom. That's it. So I feel like Freddy has way too few kills. I still would have preferred if Jason had the majority of the killing, but if Freddy had like 4 or 5 kills in this movie, that would have been a little better. Con number 3 is some of the digital effects in this movie are pretty bad. Thankfully, they do mainly rely what was I talking about? Fuck. I lost track. Thankfully, they kept the effects mainly practical and they use little CGI. And not all the CG is bad, but there are some digital effects that do look pretty damn shitty. Like when Laurie tears off Freddy's ear and it morphs into a lump of maggots. It's pretty obvious that it's both a digital effect and a composition shot, and it really doesn't look all that good. Thankfully, it's a very quick shot, and that's another thing I will give credit for. I feel like they knew that their digital effects weren't all that good, so you don't see that much of them, and when they are on screen, they're edited very quickly. Like you see just quick cuts of the effect, and then that's it. They move on to something else. So I think that's a good thing that they knew. They're trying to be smart about it. But still, the digital effects really aren't, they're not awful. Like, they're not as bad as the CG that's used in Jason X. But still, they are kind of bad. The last problem that I have with this movie is the ending. Okay. It's one of those, both of them are still alive endings. I hate those endings. And it's another example where they just could not make up their fucking minds on who they wanted to win. I call it a win for Jason. If somebody was to ask me, who do you think really won? I will always say, I don't think I know Jason won that fight. Because like I just said, Jason inflicts the more grievous injuries on Freddy. Jason inflicts more of a definitive killing blow than Jason. Hell, he inflicts 3, tears off one of his arms, stabs him in the stomach with one of his fists, and also impales Freddy with his own clawed glove. Yes, technically, Laurie inflicted the true killing move on Freddy with having his head decapitated, but any of those 3 injuries Freddy would have died from. It's amazing that he survived getting impaled through the chest with his own arm, but whatever. I guess that's movie logic. So I call this a win for Jason. I don't give a shit what anyone else says about, like, if some official New Line Cinema or Paramount was to definitively say Freddy won or Jason won. I don't give a shit what they say. To me, Jason Voorhees is the definitive winner, and he is the true supernatural killer. That's just me. Do I think Jason can kill Thanos? No. Unless you take away the Infinity Gauntlet. And actually, no. Even then, because Thanos lifted the Galactus engine. If Thanos really wanted to, he could just pick Jason up and tear him in half if he wanted to. If he can defeat the Hulk, he can defeat Jason. So yeah, there's that. But I'm not a big fan of the ending to this movie. I just feel like, again, a part of me thinks that maybe the studio was setting it up for a sequel, but unfortunately we never got that. Not that I really think this movie needed a sequel. I mean, there's potential for a sequel, but if they were to make a standalone movie with just Freddy and Jason fighting and just having it one there, then I would have been fine. Give us a definitive ending. And yes, I have seen New Nightmare and Jason X. I think those are the two of the best of the franchise. And those came before Freddy versus Jason, long before Freddy versus Jason. So, let's see. Yeah, not a big fan of the ending. I just feel like the studio should have pulled their heads out of their asses and just said, we're going to have Jason win. I think it's raining. So overall, guys, that's all I have to say about this movie. I love the crap out of this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. One of my favorite film. I love this movie. Fucking A. I love this movie. No, I have not seen the original ending. Unless that's when Will and Laurie are fucking and Will grows Freddy's claws out of his fingers. Is that the original ending? Because that ending sucked. I love the crap out of this movie. And despite the flaws that I have with this film, I'm not going to bullshit. I give this movie a perfect, solid gold 10 out of 10. I love it to death. I can pop it on and watch it from beginning to end and be thoroughly entertained all the way through, anytime, any day. I fucking love this movie. Oh, that is the original ending. That ending sucked. If the movie ended that way, I'd have given this movie an 8. But thankfully, we have the ending that we have, which still kind of sucks, but it's better than the original ending. So with all that being said, post your comments down below and let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. And as always, go out and watch Freddy vs. Jason, for Christ's sake. It's a fantastic movie. Ignore what the critics are saying. If you go into Freddy vs. Jason and you're expecting it to be a Golden Globe or Oscar-worthy winning film, you're not seeing the forest for the trees. You're just completely missing the point. This is a movie to just be watched to have fun. And that's it. Have fun watching this movie. And of course, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.